I need to know the rules. I don't know them yet, and we're getting close to launch, and I don't know them, and it makes me nervous. I need to know the rules. From the rules flow all sorts of strategy. I just want to help. I need to know the rules.
You ready, sir?
I'm ready.
For the record, you state your name.
I am Tyson Curtis, speaking to Ethan Stewart.
Excellent.
Yes.
Now, ZAP is getting ready to begin. Why don't you fill me in a little bit on what ZAP stands for and a little bit of the background?
A little bit of the background? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, ZAP is a zombie apocalypse preparation, which is, it's kind of roundabout how we got there. Basically, it was just started as an idea of just trying to get more back to the land, simplify things, and just learn all those things that people seem to be forgetting over time. You know, they're just getting so focused on all their little electronics and, you know, the day-to-day life, modern living, which is very like convenient and fulfilling in its own way, but somehow it just feels like on the core it's slightly unfulfilling to me personally. And so it started out just trying to be totally sustainable, and then this whole green movement really got going, and to me it was like too trendy. Everyone's like, you're going sustainable, all this, it's like, that's so cool, and it was just too hip and groovy for me. So then we kind of departed into the zombies of post-apocalyptic, like, and in the root I found that that was really more what I was worried about, or not worried about, but intrigued by, was that, you know, what happens when you don't have access to all this stuff that makes your life so convenient. And, you know, in the zombies, that's just an excuse. It could be, like, as you had said in a previous conversation, it could be aliens, or it could be an atom bomb attack, or, you know, anything really. It's just an excuse to push you in a certain direction.
So it's about survival.
It's about survival, absolutely.
Is survival something you've thought about a lot before, or?
Probably first entered my mind, 4th, 5th grade, my teacher sent us this book called My Side of the Mountain. I don't know if you've heard of it or read it or anything, but it's just about this kid that just kind of like, you know, is like, hey, I want to go do my own thing. And he just goes over into the mountains, he hollows out a redwood tree, you know, he starts making his own fishing lures, and, you know, he just gets a falcon and he just goes feral, and he's just, I mean, maybe the book's a little unrealistic, but he's really successful at it. And as, like, you know, a 4th or 5th grader, just put a hook in my mind, you know, and ever since that's kind of been in the back of my mind, you know. Like then I was like, I'm starting, I'm gonna do it now, you know. And my mom was like, no, you gotta go to school, you gotta go to college, you know, all this stuff. So at a certain point, you know, it's like, well, that'd be cool to do, you know, that. And then my babysitter as a kid, and we were talking about this earlier, he was just like Wayne Highland, a really super outdoorsy guy, into the ocean, into fishing, and just like the craziest stuff, you know. I remember going over to his house one day and he had a full-blown bison head on a spike in his front yard that he was just wanted the skull and was rotting it down, and one of his friends had been like attacked by this bison, and it was just crazy, dude. So he was always skinning stuff up and making bow and arrows with me as a kid, and quivers, and yeah, just all this crazy stuff that he was into. You know, he had a rattlesnake in a terrarium that he caught in his house, and so this guy just kind of like instilled this like kind of, you know, Indian spirit into me.
Now it sounds like, I mean, for survival to happen in the sense that you're talking about, a quintessential component of that's the land itself. Definitely. So why don't you tell me a little bit about where you're making your stand?
In a post-apocalyptic society, this is why it's so hard to recreate this, because you've got so many people and they're all trying to go to these certain spots where everyone's trying to make, you know, the most resources, you know, work. And Big Sur, of course, is a great place for that, but in a true situation, I'd have to say that it's such a tourist thing. It's on so many people's minds that, you know, the apocalypse comes and they go, you know, the father goes, holy shit, we got to get out of here. Where can we go? And they go, oh, we went camping in Big Sur, you know, 10 years ago, whatever. It's in people's minds. So I think there's going to be a major influx. And I know, you know, like one of my friends, his dad had dynamite in a redwood tree buried, like ready to blow up all the bridges in Big Sur. This is back in the 60s, 70s, you know, Cody's dad, you know this guy. And that's maybe taken to the extreme, but, you know, he was obviously thinking about this kind of stuff. So you could do a lot of hunting around there. It's a bike ride away from the beach, and, you know, the Indians subsisted for thousands of years just off shellfish and kelp and all that stuff down there. So I definitely have an advantage, and, you know, a lot of people might be able to dream about doing something like this, but don't have the means to do it. I feel like if it's something that I have, I'm kind of like being selfish if I don't go out and actually use it, when other people maybe would be interested but not have the opportunity.
So there's the land itself, but beyond that, Tell me a little bit about the preparations.
Yeah, I've been preparing for about 1.5 years now. And, you know, I started out to build this greenhouse, which I thought was going to take 3 months. It took a solid year. I mean, that thing ate up a year of my life. And I've also just been doing a lot of research. I bought tons of books on, you know, anything from tanning skins, you know, to survival books, to gardening books, you know, like edible plants that you can eat and whatnot. And also just talking to people, you know, talking to people that are into it too, and learning from them, you know, and their experiences. So a lot of it's just been, you know, just trying to imagine what you would really need in this sort of situation. And, you know, people have told me that that's unfair because if the world ended, then you would just have to jump right into it, you know,
right.
You wouldn't have time to prepare. But on the other side, I am preparing for the end of the world, and it hasn't happened. So that's what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I'm preparing for the end of the world so that when it does happen, I will have these things.
Right. The whole point is to be prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And hopefully through my experience, people can learn how to be better prepared themselves.
You know, the rules that define what you can and cannot do are critical in this whole sense. What are those rules?
The rules are really interesting because a lot of people have a lot of different outtakes on what the rules should be or shouldn't be. And God, they go totally opposite. People have really amazingly strong opinions on this. And so me personally, I kind of listened to everyone else and what they thought and kind of come up with my own interpretation of everything. And so I guess the rules to me is just trying to make the most honest interpretation of what it would be. You can't really enact the end of the world. I mean, I guess I could fly to Montana or Alaska and go in the middle of nowhere, but even that, you know, that's not representative of your average person. So,
right.
So for me, the rules basically are that assuming the world's coming to an end, you know, either A, you're going to have some time to prepare for it because you're going to see it coming. Like say it's like we had swine flu or whatever.
Right.
Like it's building, it's building, it's building, it's building. So you're like, maybe I should go to the store and stock up on some, you know, beans, rice,
yeah.
you know, some oils, whatever, you know, like lamp oil. Maybe go, you know, purchase a hunting rifle and get some extra ammunition. Or the alternative, you know, possibility is there's a nuclear strike, boom, it happens. All of a sudden we're all hit with this thing. But even then, it's like all that stuff's out there. All the stores are totally stocked full of whatever, and of course instantly there's looting, there's rioting, all this stuff. So basically I'm basing it on the theory that either A, you can stock up because you see it coming, or B, you can go out after the apocalypse and hopefully scavenge some stuff and do some looting. So I'm doing some storage, you know, but not enough that's unrealistic. In terms of buying things would be, I guess I would sum it up that like this gets complicated because I can't buy anything, I can't touch any money.
No spending of money.
The only spending of money is I'm paying my rent for a year. I have a landline phone that's not in my house, so I'm paying for that. So those are the things that I have like as expenses that I really honed it down, and that's as far as I could get without losing my girlfriend, basically. I mean, I originally would just love to just I'm pretty much a black or white kind of person. But I could trade with people for things, you know, like if I'm growing a bunch of vegetables and I have extra, I can trade with my neighbors for, you know, chicken eggs that came from their chickens. So we kind of came up with this plan that there's different tiers of like sustainable production.
Right.
And so we came up with like a first tier production would be my neighbor grows something in her garden and she brings that to me and we trade, you know, for whatever. I've got some venison, we trade. And so that's a first tier. She grew that as if she was like in my actual situation, a post-apocalyptic thing, not putting anything into it that required any money. So that would be a first tier. So I can trade for all that kind of stuff, no problem. The kind of compromise one is the second tier production, which would be assume like my mother has goats. So if she is driving to the store to buy hay to feed those goats, that's obviously something she wouldn't be able to do in a post-apocalyptic situation. And yet still she's, you know, producing something on her own. So that's a second tier thing. So I would be allowed to like say have her goat cheese or her goat milk, trade with that, whatnot. And so like a third tier production, which I'm not allowed to do, would be someone that went to the store, purchased like enough ingredients to make say a pie, apple pie. Or like someone making an apple pie with apples off their trees that also used store-bought ingredients like flour and whatnot. and then they bake that. So that would be a third tier. So it's like something they're making, but they're making it with raw ingredients that they actually purchased. And so that is third tier. I couldn't use that. And then fourth tier would be like, hey, I'm going to go to the store, buy a pie, and give it to you. And that obviously I couldn't do.
As far as skills go, how are your hunting skills?
You know, I was a really good hunter as a child and you know, my early teens. My hunting skills are probably far surpassing my like cleaning, skinning, gutting skills. That's going to be really interesting. I haven't like actually cleaned up an animal and skinned it since I was probably 13 or 14, and it was a trial event, you know. Luckily I have a lot of friends, you know, and neighbors and stuff that are a little bit more into that. They can probably be a good resource for me.
So help then, in that sense, in know-how is acceptable.
That's acceptable, yeah. Because the entire thing is based on trying to build your knowledge so that when it actually happens, then you will be able to really like go out there and help yourself and help other people.
It sounds like then community actually is an important component to this whole experiment.
It is, and that's actually one of the difficult things, is that this experiment would be so much more successful and easier if it was a community of people. You know, like I look at like the tribes and I'm always imagining like, okay, if I was like, you know, say 10 to 20 people, like, and we all went out and say like, you know, these people go out hunting, these people go out fishing, these people go out foraging, someone's going to bring back some food that day. If someone brings back a deer, you know, and no one else brings back anything, then the whole tribe's eating. Whereas if I go out and bring back a deer, I mean, that's awesome, I brought back a deer, but what do I do with it? Then you know, we can't all eat it and go on with our lives, you know. Then I got to figure out how to store it, you know, jerk it or, you know, dry it or whatever and can it maybe. So it's a lot more difficult because you don't have this kind of evening out where, you know, some people get something sometimes, some people get something another time. It's just all on you, you know.
You know, what is it that you're looking forward to?
Just fulfillment, man. Absolutely. You know, to me, you know, right now the greenhouse is producing like lots of vegetables and greens and stuff, and when you have a salad that's just like from your own input, your own energy, that's just so much more fulfilling to me, you know. And I feel like if you go catch a fish and you skin it up and you do everything and you get home, that's just so much more fulfilling to me than going to Trader Joe's and buying it and, you know, you've got fish. It's just, there's something about it that's just, it's just awesome to me, you know. That's really what I live for, I guess.
What do your friends and family and loved ones think about this?
You know, some people think it's great. Some people are envious and say, you know, oh, I wish I had time to do that. And someone pointed out to me that it's not about people saying they wish they had time, but just I wish I prioritized that higher, you know. So I've just prioritized this above time for other things, but other people think I'm totally crazy, and you know, like I could talk about my friends, you know, Cody is just like, man, I want to be there with you when you're trying to make fire in the woods. I just want to, you know, mark me in for that. I wish I had, you know, time to get in there and do this whole thing with you, or my brother Cyrus. And then on the other side, there's like Marcos, who's like, oh my God, you're actually insane. Like, what is wrong with you? You know, you're going to go a year without beer, without power, you know, and he's all like, he's got his plush little thing, and that's what gives him fulfillment, and I totally respect that. And he's going to taunt me. It's going to be interesting.
Under what circumstances would you pull the plug on the experiment?
That's a really good question. And I've thought about that, you know. You know, my mom says, oh, we're going to have an intervention. You'll just keep going until it kills you, you know. And it's pretty hard to think of any circumstances where I would pull the plug. It's just not in my mindset, you know. The only thing I could imagine is if I suffered some like really serious injury and ran out of food and it was just no longer like moving forward, and it was just kind of pointless going further because I'm not advancing my knowledge of the subject, you know. And in that circumstance, there's no point in just sitting at home and starving and just limping along, because the whole point is to gain the knowledge.
True that.
Yeah.
I think.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Covered the bases. Huh?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much, man.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
dude.
I appreciate it.
It's cool stuff.
Especially you, Brandon. I appreciate you bringing out all the equipment. And
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Lending
We'll go
your
spearfishing,
expertise.
man. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's the next episode.
That is, dude.